flew to DC and told JD Vance how they had a deal with Iran. And if these dumbasses weren't in charge, what they could have done is said, I've achieved a diplomatic breakthrough better than even what Obama did, and everything's fantastic. But instead, they ignored the Omani foreign minister, ignored negotiations, and did this. But Yuta, how should I shamelessly promote you?
Just say Rula Jebreal, award-winning journalist. I covered the Iraq War. I just got back from Oman, where I talked to Omani diplomats.
Oh, the Omani foreign minister who was this close. Folks, you got me in mid-conversation with the great Rula Jebreal, award-winning journalist. She is also speaks, I think, 4 languages, has family in Palestine and Israel, has traveled around the world. She is also a screenwriter, and she's also a professor. And she was just telling me right now she just got back from Oman. And the reason why that's important, I think it's a very important data point that we always try to remind folks here on the Left Hook, is all of this could have been avoided. The Omani foreign minister, Rula, can you just explain to people how he literally flew to DC and told JD Vance how they had a deal with Iran? And if these dumbasses weren't in charge, what they could have done is said, I've achieved a diplomatic breakthrough better than even what Obama did, and everything's fantastic. But instead, they ignored the Omani foreign minister, ignored negotiations, and did this instead.
Well, because negotiation was never the goal. Negotiation was used by the Israelis. I mean, let's explain the Omani role that I think is very important. Since 2014, the Omanis has been negotiators and mediators for Americans to negotiate, whether with the Talibans, whether with the Iraqis, the Iranians. And if we had Obama's successful Iran deal, the GCPO, basically is because the Omanis are the best diplomats we have in the region. They usually hate to talk to journalists. I've been tracking the Omanis for years. I remember when I was covering the Iraq War in 2003, 2005, 6, 7, on and off, and it was clear the role of Iran in Iraq. I remember George W. Bush discovered a year after the invasion that 60% of the population were Shiites. And he started, it's like, this is how ignorant most politicians in America about simple facts, data, numbers, geography, national composition, ethnic composition. They know nothing. But the Omanis were for the first time, they broke protocol, meaning they wanted to convey directly to the administration what was happening in the room, because they did not trust Jared Kushner and Witkoff, who've been lying and basically doing, taking the side of Israel in this negotiation. They're not working for the best of the American people or the national security of the American people. They're not even working for the administration. They pretend to do, but basically their agenda is the greater Israel.
Well, Rula, I'm so glad, real quick, just as you're on your flow, I've mentioned this a few times, that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, of all people, were sent to negotiate with Israel and Iran. And I kept asking, and also Ukraine and Russia, why the F is Jared Kushner negotiating on behalf of the United States? What's his role?
Yes. Basically, they sabotaged the negotiation. Jared Kushner, father, Charles Kushner, is best friend with Netanyahu. They believe in the Greater Israel Project. Jared Kushner believes in ethnically cleansing Palestinians. He said it a year ago in Miami. Basically, he is the strategist and the brain behind the Board of Peace, which is, it's nothing. Basically, it's an institution created by Trump to bypass the UN so they can take Gaza and basically transform Gaza into some kind of Riviera with investments, while either, ethnically cleansing Palestinians or putting them in concentration camps, literally putting them like slavery, literally slavery. This is Jared Kushner. So the Omani did not trust him. They knew he would be lying. We have intelligence that Tulsi Gabbard was suppressing. that Jared Kushner somehow is compromised. You have people in the intelligence community that basically ask the same question you're asking, why these are in those rooms, what the benefits, how they're benefiting from these rooms, what kind of side deals and who are their loyalty is towards. And I think when there is this huge interrogation and there's a report basically by our own intelligence questioning the role and the motives of Jared Kushner, Tulsi Gabbard
Well,
fired.
well, Rula, that's a really good point. I just want to remind people this was a huge scandal, which is
Yep.
we've forgotten, and has been reported that Tulsi Gabbard, a whistleblower last year, said that Tulsi Gabbard broke chains, took this information, went to Susie Wiles, and that someone close to the administration was apparently compromised by foreign intelligence. And then instead of going through the normal channels and telling people
Right.
about it, Tulsi Gabbard literally has hidden this information. And then I think it was Wall Street Journal who said that the person in question is Jared Kushner.
Jared Kushner, according to American intelligence, is compromised by a foreign intelligence. That foreign intelligence happens to be a Mossad. Period. Period. There's no question. Tulsi Gabbard fired the people that wrote the report, suppressed the report, but now we see the effect of that horrifying decision. And the effect is the following. Jared Kushner conveyed messages to the administration that contradict what was happening in the room. Now we have, for the first time, people calling them liars in the region. They're calling Jared Kushner and Witkoff liars. They lied. I mean, this reminds me of the Iraq War, the WMD. They lied about the WMD, and now they're lying about the negotiation. And here we are. But I think there's another element that is worth mentioning. I don't think Trump himself went out of the negotiation. He went to the negotiation with the idea, through misconceptions, that Iran was so weak they would capitulate completely to all of his demand. As a total misconception. After the 12-day war in June, Iran basically separated its political echelon from the military echelon totally. They were working in parallel. They predicted there will be a decapitation strikes. They predicted everything. The Iranians planned totally. They knew what they were doing. Trump was drunk on sugar and high after Venezuela. He thought he could deploy the Venezuela model in Iran. This is a second misconception. And a third one, I think he was duped and literally manipulated by Netanyahu, who told him, you don't want to be remembered as the guy that made another deal with a regime. You want to be remembered as the guy that destroyed the regime. And I think these three elements played a role why Jared Kushner, Netanyahu, and Steve Witkoff managed to literally sabotage the deal. We know the deal that was offered to Trump could have been a better deal than the Obama deal.
That's right.
And yet they decided to basically throw the whole region on fire and the whole world on fire and start World War III.
So the Omani foreign minister, thank you so much for that background, Rula. Literally, folks, ran 12 hours before, ran to DC 12 hours before the Trump administration announced that they had joined Israel in this illegal war and said that we have a deal. Negotiations are going really well. Iran will guarantee they will not enrich their uranium. This will be a win for you. Please do not strike. What happened? As we know from New York Times reporting, which also then coincides with Marco Rubio admitted publicly 2 days ago, Benjamin Netanyahu came in, kind of bullied / charmed Donald Trump. We know how he plays Donald Trump. We saw him on television. Rula, can you just, if I may, Donald Trump 2 days ago, the President of the United States of America, posted and told Americans to watch the Prime Minister of another country, Benjamin Netanyahu, come on Sean Hannity's program and sell the war to Americans. And I know Netanyahu played him exactly as you said, because he just flattered him. President Trump did something that no other president has ever had the guts to do. President Trump is the greatest president. He is so smart. He is so fantastic. And clearly then you saw Marco Rubio when he was asked, because they're trying to come up with a justification for this unpopular war, Rubio then says, well, Israel was going to strike anyway. And so instead of, I don't know, telling Israel, stop,
Don't
we
do
thought
that.
if Israel strikes, then there's going to be retaliation against us. So then we proactively, preemptively retaliated against America. And then you saw the pro-Israel lobby come out, an AIPAC lobby come out and said, "Are you blaming Israel?" And they
Yes.
said, "Oh, no, no, no." And then a reporter yesterday said, uh, you said then Israel kind of led us into it. He goes, "Who said that?" You did. I asked the question. Explain this to me, what I just said right now.
Remember, Marco Rubio was vetted by Larry Ellison when he was appointed as Secretary of State. We
That's
have a very powerful pro-Israel lobby. I would use Massey's Representative Massey own word that we have a mafia called AIPAC and the pro-Israeli lobby that is literally sabotaging American foreign policy, that all their aim and goal is bully, intimidate, and basically manipulate American politicians so they can totally become submissive to whatever Israel wants to do. And I'm telling you, Waj, this is not going to stop in Iran. We have Naftali Bennett, the former prime minister, and the next prime minister, probably, who is saying the new Iran is Turkey.
said it last week.
Of 82 million people. Israel wants the Greater Israel Project and willing to decimate a region of 400 million people. They don't care about human rights. They don't care about the sanctity of life. And they feel now emboldened because in the White House, they have this moron who is blackmailed because of Epstein. They have another fanatic in Israel who's Huckabee, who said they can take it all.
Yeah.
Who cares about all of that? We are watching American lives, American soldiers being murdered. We're watching children being murdered in schools. You want to liberate women, and the first act you do is decimate and kill and basically execute 180 girls, schoolgirls. What message are you sending to the world? And Trump is so dumb, so dumb. He's today saying, "Oh, I'm going to basically give arm the Iraqi militia, the Iranian militias." Did you learn anything about the history of the Mujahideen in Afghanistan? Did you learn anything about arming ISIS, whether in Gaza or in Syria? Are you out of your mind? And I think the only way now, let's be clear, after the genocide in Gaza, most Americans don't view Israel with any sympathy, including American Jews. And with this, I think there will be a real fracture. Now, I look at generational of politicians who, for them to be elected, they will have to understand for the overwhelming majority of Americans, Israel is toxic. Israel is a threat to America's own national security. Israel is willing to burn the entirety of the Middle East so they can have total hegemony. A country of 9 million people want to dominate a region of 400 million people. And the only way you can do it is by having America on your side, fighting your wars, dying for you, and paying for whatever military adventure you want. You have people here who cannot afford healthcare, but you have in Israel people pretending to get billions of dollars every year so they can bomb the Middle East left and right.
And Rula, we're at that age where certain things are changing in a way that I never thought I'd see. You saw that Gallup poll that came out
Yeah,
about a week and a half ago. For the first time in US history, a majority of Americans are more sympathetic towards Palestinians and Israel. I don't know if you've been following, there was primaries yesterday, and in
yeah.
the primaries, there are Democrats who took out some of these old guard Democrats who are pro APAC and also pro ICE. You also say even though Jasmine Crockett lost, her pastor replaced her seat. He's a Justice Democrat, progressive. I'm sure you've go see what he said against Israel and about Palestinian rights. And then, but I always want to be fair here. It isn't just Lindsey Graham who I think is compromised. It isn't just the Warhawks. It isn't just the Republican white Christian nationalists like Huckabee and Pete Hegseth. We've gone into this because of Democratic leadership. And
Sure. And
yeah,
rightly so, what you said on Joy Reid with that other moron in the Democratic Party. I mean, Hakeem Jeffrey. Hakeem Jeffrey forgets that he's black, forgets how they treat black and brown people in Israel. I mean, they call us kushim, which is the equivalent of the N word.
mm,
I just want to reiterate you cannot sell America's interests and then send Americans, boys and girls, to be butchered for Israel and pretend you're in the pro-democracy coalition. Regarding Lindsey Graham, I just remember very well, 2018, I was invited to moderate a debate with Lindsey Graham in Italy between Lindsey Graham and Hillary Clinton. And I never talked about this openly, but I remember very well, he just came back from Russia. Remember, Russia at the
I
time,
remember this. I remember this. Yeah. The trip he took. Yeah.
Russia already annexed Crimea in 2014. He came back from Russia. He came to the debate. He smelled like alcohol,
Yeah.
like drunk. He was, I don't know, I mean, I couldn't breathe for an hour of the debate because he smelled like a goat, with all due respects to goats. It was, I don't know if this guy, I know that, I don't want to speculate, but I think he should come out. There's no need to hide his sexual identity. Nobody cares in the 21st century. But if somebody is using this as leverage, and Donald Trump in the first round during the first administration, he stated on multiple occasions that there is this senator who can be blackmailed. There's issues. I think he was referencing absolutely Lindsey Graham. It was obvious to everybody in the room. And I remember the first question I asked him, and I said, Senator Graham, in 2016, you said Trump is a racist, a xenophobe, he's going to destroy the party. And now you go party with him and golf with him. Were you wrong then, or are you wrong now? And I remember the room erupted for a question. It never happened to me. Like, people never erupt for a question. They usually erupt and applaud for an answer. But it was so obvious. And you know who was sitting in the room? The wife of John McCain. I mean, she was sitting in the room, and I remember her face looking at Lindsey Graham. She was looking at him like, you are a traitor. But I think it's much worse than a traitor. Lindsey Graham is compromised. Trump is compromised. I think the fact that Jared Kushner's father thought that it was okay to send a prostitute to blackmail his own sister. We
Yeah.
don't know what security apparatus are doing. Epstein was very famous for blackmailing people. We know this because Lutnick told us, because Epstein's own victim, Virginia Giuffre, told us that they were recording. We discovered last week that Israel was in charge of his surveillance apparatus in his house in Manhattan. Why? I'm not saying that Lindsey Graham, went, and raped young boys. But if you have any issues that they could blackmail you on it,
Compromise. Exactly. That's
of course they will.
you know, Rula, this is why I love Rula, because I usually have to connect the dots with Rula. I just press play because she connects the dots for me. I was going to get to the fact that we now know that Israel was responsible for putting in the surveillance in Epstein's apartment, folks. And those who don't worry, we're going to be talking about Epstein a lot too this week. There were video cameras, folks, in every single room of Epstein's apartment. And we know powerful men came there and did terrible things with girls. We know one of the people who made multiple visits to Epstein was Ehud Barak. Ehud Barak is a former prime minister of Israel, former head of the IDF. His aide was there. In fact, now you can't even make this up because we have the audio now, where Epstein is telling Ehud Barak, hey, invest in Palantir. You know that surveillance company? And he's like, huh? What? P-A-L-A? Yeah, and Peter Thiel. So what we're seeing is the fact that we know Jeffrey Epstein had this compromising information on people. Now, we don't know how this is being used, but we know Russia uses compromise. And folks, I'm just saying with Lindsey Graham, I have never seen anyone in the past 3 days be for not just the use, not just celebrating this war, not just celebrating military force, but also openly saying, well, yeah, Americans got to die.
And not only that, listen, Israel was using compromise for years. They have a unit 8200. Ehud Barak is not only a former prime minister, he is the father of the surveillance state. He started many companies. One of them is Paragon, an Israeli company who is used to spy on journalists, on dissidents. And they're selling this company this technology everywhere. They sold it to the Italian government, and the Italian government spied of Meloni, spied on journalists. And you have the former head of Mossad, Yossi Cohen, who on television, on camera, in an interview saying in English, not even in Hebrew, saying, of course, we have a back door with every technology. We spy on our clients. So you sell this to a client use it to spy on somebody else, and through that, you spy on your own client. This is the same guy that threatened the head of the ICC, Fatou Bensouda, and told her, I don't want anything really wrong to happen to you and to your family. Drop the investigation and be careful, because something really bad can happen to you and to your family. I don't know if they threatened Lindsey Graham. I don't know if he's too drunk to connect his tongue to his brain. I don't know if he's compromised because of his homosexuality. I have no idea.
Alleged homosexuality. I'm just helping
Okay.
you, Rula.
Okay, thank you.
Alleged homosexuality.
Homosexual that nobody in the 21st century cares about. Lindsey Graham. I mean, like, nobody. Like, go for it, dude. Come out of the closet. Just do it. But the fact that he is terrified that he has to fly to Israel every 2 weeks, he is literally working for the Israelis and not for the people who elected him in the United States. It is not only embarrassing, it is treason. It is treason. I mean, we are living in a reality where the most powerful country on earth has its policy dictated by a tiny country in the Middle East, ran by an indicted war criminal.
Mm.
I mean, when I put this together, this can happen not only because the power of persuasion that the charming Netanyahu has. He doesn't have any power of persuasion. The guy looked like shit. But he has another thing. He has a powerful surveillance state. He has many agents who infiltrate the US government and collected compromise and are, in a good way and in a bad way, blackmailing American politicians.
And also one of those spies, Jonathan Pollard, buddies with Mike Huckabee. Folks, Jonathan Pollard is a traitor, a spy who was in prison, now is in Israel, and now in Israel openly is trying to tell Jews to spy openly. He's saying, hey, do what I did, spy for Israel. Mike Huckabee goes and meets him. It takes Tucker Carlson to ask him about it. Mike Huckabee sees nothing wrong with it. But also what's been happening, they're flattering Donald Trump. There's compromise. There's the ideological ties that Biden had. There's the post-67 military industrial complex relationship with Israel. But then there's also another big chunk of it, especially with this administration, Rula, white Christian nationalists.
Oh, yeah.
The Pete Kexets, the Mike Huckabees, and then, I was telling people this. When I went 3 times to Israel, Palestine. I remember the last time I went, I was on a plane. And it was during the Sabbath, right? So I was surprised to see there was only 2, I think you could tell from the kippah, 2 Jewish Americans. But the whole plane was me, essentially 2 Jews, I assume, just from the kippah. Everyone else was part of a Christian college, part of some Christian retreat. They were all American Christians. And then when we landed, there were in Tel Aviv airport, there was all these posters talking about the Jewish Christian, tent of Abraham, unity, no Muslims, even though we also believe in Abraham. No. It was Jews and Christians. And Benjamin Netanyahu has actively cultivated these Christian Zionists, who are the largest Zionist group in America, Christians United for Israel. Can you talk to us about that marriage that has been solidified over the past 10 years between these Christian fanatics and Jewish supremacists?
First of all, if I may just add one thing that I think is very important. As we speak, the biggest support that Israel has is with Christian Zionists. And I think they really believe that, and part of the Christian Zionists basically campaigned for this war with Iran. They wanted this war, and then now we discover they basically talking about Armageddon.
Yeah.
They're using biblical language to justify the war days after Netanyahu himself used another biblical language, which is Amalek.
Can you expand on that, Rula, please? Because that happened a couple of days ago, and I don't think not enough people are picking up on it.
basically, Netanyahu is an indicted war criminal by the ICC. He and also the state of Israel that he runs is also under in court at the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, for genocide. And in the court case, it cites Netanyahu directly for the use of starvation as a weapon of war against Palestinians, and the incitement language that he used and rhetoric. And they reference directly something he said in October 2023 when he said, when he invoked the slaughtering of Palestinians, and he used a biblical language talking about Amalek. Amalek is a biblical tribe, and that was decimated literally, where the Bible says, kill them, kill their children, kill their animals, kill everybody, all
Everything.
everything as retaliation. So he cited that biblical language that was used also by many soldiers as they shot children, civilians, women, doctors, animals, like they literally killed animals. So that language is a language that is being used by the radical Zionist fanatics in Israel to justify the mass slaughter of Palestinians. It's a genocidal language. Actually, usually in any genocidal case, the hardest thing to prove is the genocidal intent. But in the case of Israel, we had 500 declarations and statement by Israeli officials as genocidal intent. One of those is Amalek. When Israel and America start bombing in Iran, Netanyahu used the same exact words against.
Yes, 2 days ago, the story of Purim, the holiday of Purim, where Amalek was destroyed.
Exactly. And then we saw an article on CNN, literally an article published on CNN, making reference to Amalek, Purim, saying, yeah, this is a biblical reference. So when we talk about the Christian Zionists, they truly believe in a vision of the world, or there's this religious radical ideology that says that all the Jews have to go back to Israel, all of them from around the world. The Middle East has to be destroyed. No more Muslims, no more. Like 400 million people have to be evaporated. That Israel, and this is the moment where the Messiah will come back. They truly believe that. And then in that moment, Jews have to convert to Christianity. Otherwise, they would be slaughtered. This is the most radical religious views that I think if we have to compare it to anything, I would compare it to the Holy Inquisition, to the most fanatical religious, Christian religion, Christian part of the Christianity in our history that led to crusades, genocides, ethnic cleansing. I mean, like, I study this because I teach genocide and propaganda. The first time we saw any genocidal intent or genocidal rhetoric used, it was in the Middle Ages to divide Christians from Muslim. Anybody that has a Christian blood had to wage a war to purify the land or the world, especially the Holy Land, from the Muslims. And I think that's the same kind of mindset. And they are so, and what scares me that people like Peter Thiel really believe in the end of the world and, the Antichrist, all of that. So we are watching now very powerful community in America, very wealthy and very powerful, who are literally dictating agendas and policies that are opposed by 80% of the American people. They don't care about democracy.
Nope.
They care about human rights. Their appointment or their vision is in another world, for another, for them, they use the religion as a tool to basically carry out foreign policy decisions that affect billions of people around the world.
I want to give you some updates as this is happening in real time. The Senate is voting on whether to bring a resolution to the floor that would restrict Trump's ability to continue military action in Iran days after he began the campaign without consulting Congress. Also, as mentioned, for those who are joining us late, senior U.S. military official and a Western official said that Iranian ballistic missile that NATO Air Forces, NATO air defenses shot down was headed towards Turkish airspace, has been targeting the air base in Turkey, a NATO member that hosts American troops and those from other allied countries. And we also just saw this because, of course, it's going so well. I don't know if you've been I know you've been following this, Rula, that Donald Trump, Spain said, we're not going to help the United States. Then Donald Trump bullied Spain. Then Donald Trump yesterday said, guess what? Good news. Spain is helping. 21 minutes ago, Spain says,
No,
nope, we're
they're
not cooperating with the U.S. That news taken together to me is terrifying because the Jewish supremacists of the genocidal Jewish supremacists of the Netanyahu regime with the crusaders, cosplay crusaders that are Pete Hegseth and Mike Huckabee of the white Christian nationalists have now essentially launched what could be a world war with Iran. And Iran, because it believes it's under an existential threat, is
yeah,
now deliberately dragging NATO, Middle East, Europe into this war. Everyone, talk to us about the Turkish angle first, the Turkey NATO angle.
The Iranians told us they've been flagging for weeks their strategy. They told us we're going to globalize the world, we're going to spread the pain, we're going to involve anybody, and we're going to attack anybody that is helping the Americans. Anywhere there's a military base will be hit. Anybody there's an American interest will be hit. And there's something that the media is not talking about. There's a Shia revolution and revolt everywhere from Bahrain to Pakistan.
I've talked about it, Rula. I've said it. I predicted it on Saturday. I said, do you all know that there's Shias and 15% of Muslims are Shias and they look to the Ayatollah, even with the disagreements, as a religious leader? What will happen if this is framed as a religious war? And you saw in Pakistan, attack of the U.S. consulate.
Not only in Pakistan. I mean, I don't know if you've been following Bahrain, where 70% of the population,
Shia.
yeah, they were cheering up the missile.
Ya Ali, when they saw the missiles.
Yeah. So, I mean, I covered the Iraq war. I remember when the invasion of Iraq started, the invasion started also from Iran. Iran won that war. 60% of the people were Shia. They were oppressed by Saddam Hussein. The Shiite militias are the most well-organized, well-trained, the most principled. I mean, I honestly, I think the Americans have no clue what they're dealing with. These are people who are hardened by 20 years war, but also their tolerance for pain is very high. They were hit hard by Saddam Hussein in the 80s. During that war. He gassed people, literally gassed people, used chemical weapons. When he was backed by the Americans, he killed how many million Iranians were killed in that war?
He gassed his own people also.
Millions. 2 million Iranians were killed in that war. They withstood that pain. They endured. They are resilient people. They're master strategists. I mean, I remember going to Sadr city. Muqtada Sadr was in charge, talking to those incredible militias, and I was terrified. And they said, very simple. We hated Saddam Hussein, but we're not going to allow the Americans to take over. There's 100 terrorist attacks a day in Iraq at the height of the civil war. The Americans were scrambling. They didn't know what to do. The only way the civil war ended and the violence was reduced in Iraq when America cut a deal with the Iranians and the Iraqis. And they came up with a strategy called the awakening, a sahwa in Arabic. And that awakening was a power sharing formula. What Trump and his ignorant advisors didn't realize, you are dealing with a very savvy strategist, very hardened people, but also very committed to their nationalism. They're nationalists. They're proud of their heritage, of who they are. Many of them might hate Khamenei and they hate the clerics. But guess what? They also remember and hate the Americans, and they will never allow a foreign invasion to take over. They rather burn the region than allow America or Israel to take over. And if the Israelis are so drunk on power, they think, oh, we're protected. I want to remind everybody that the headquarters of the Mossad, the headquarters of the IDF, are in the middle of Tel Aviv. A year ago, there was a surveillance drone that nobody knew who did it, but basically discovered image of, they basically put online all the strategic military asset and intelligence asset of the Israeli online in the Arab world. The Israelis freaked out. It was like, how the hell did they film all of that? That was Iranians. They were flagging to the Israelis, back off. We know exactly where it is. There's an Iron Dome that protects Israel from missiles. But if the missiles are not 200, but 2,000, that can overwhelm the Iron Dome.
Yeah.
And when you start seeing Israeli civilians in the hundreds being killed, then I think there will be probably a re-examination. Either the fanatic government that doesn't care about the people, that actually is now activating the Dahya doctrine, which is kill everybody, we don't want hostages. If they decide, okay, what scares me the most is the mentality that is now driving Israel policy. And it's the Pollard mentality. Jonathan Pollard said it. He said, we should use a nuclear tactical bomb at a certain point. That is what they were thinking. I think there's a Mazada mentality, which is homicide, suicide. If something happened, let's take down everybody. We have two different countries that they have this mindset. In this moment, the Iranians are like, they don't have the capability of doing it, but they can hurt Americans and the Israeli badly. They're already hurting Americans badly. I mean, the world economy can collapse. And I think Trump is so stupid and so dumb. He's not thinking beyond how the optics would look for him tomorrow morning.
It's no fantastic explanation, and folks, is Iran has never been suicidal. Iran realizes that Israel is a nuclear weapon. Iran realizes Israel is backed by the United States. Iran has proxies. It has Hezbollah. It helps Hamas. It also has the Houthis. So they do, it's like gouging, gouge. We'll gouge you here. We'll gouge you there. We'll gouge you there. It's saber rattling. It's testing the fences, right? But once Israel and the United States assassinated the Ayatollah, and
Yeah,
what they're literally telegraphing, we're going to get rid of you no matter what. Now, as far as Iran's point of view, Rula, they're like, this is an existential crisis.
survival. It's about survival.
That's it.
I think it's very important to understand that the Iranians are very rational, very, very intelligent, very strategic. They're willing to die for their cause, but they will kill many people and take down many people with them. And if the Americans, and especially this idiot in the White House who think the Iranians are the Venezuelans or the Cubans, like he learned nothing. He learned nothing. This is going to go down as historically as unmitigated disaster, a catastrophe in the history of the United States. My fear, really, this is my biggest fear also, that we don't talk much about it, what we should. In the White House, in the intelligence department, what drunken Kash Patel did is to empty and fire people who are in charge of counterterrorism. America is blind in this moment. So one of the things the Iranians always do, you were right, gouge, proxy. But the Iranians also have a lot of assets internationally, a lot of assets. They cannot hurt you only in your military base overseas. They could hurt you here. They could hurt you on American soil. And with this Justice Department, with this security apparatus ran by a bunch of dilettantes, by a bunch of drunken idiots who are very good on video, people like Pete Hegseth, he has no expertise. He has no knowledge. The guy was drinking gin tonic at 10 o'clock in the morning. We are in the hands of incompetent people.
Oh, but he has a Kafir tattoo. Did you see his Kafir tattoo, Rula?
I mean, I was watching pictures of him sitting next to Marco Rubio at Mar-a-Lago, and they had a telephone and they were looking at the airplanes bombing Iran. I mean, and I was like looking at this. They were sitting in a nightclub. In a nightclub. This is, I mean, I don't know if it's the tragedy of the moment, the irony of the moment, the catastrophe of the moment. We are handled by a bunch of morons, by a bunch of incompetent idiots who have no clue what they're doing, who have no plan B. who nobody trusts. And in this moment, I think America is exposed. They jeopardize national security. America is being derailed and guided by Bibi Netanyahu. And I am terrified, Waj. I'm terrified for our children. I'm terrified for the world. I'm terrified there will be terrorist attacks. I think this war will make the Iraq war look like a walk in the park.
I hope you're wrong only because it is escalating. There's no exit. Iran, like you mentioned, is an existential fight. So they said, okay, we're going to bleed the world. They believe the world does not have an appetite for this war. I think they're correct with that. I think they realize Israel's used to being the bully. Israel, much like United States. I was telling this to Danielle, Rula. When you're so used to being the bully, you're perfectly fine with other people dying.
Uh,
But once it happens at home, you're like, whoa, 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 10 soldiers? 10 soldiers? We don't have the appetite for that.
Imagine
Israel,
I'm 100 soldiers or 200 soldiers.
Israel doesn't have the appetite for that. Europe doesn't have the appetite for that. People are pissed off. Income inequality, climate change, the Epstein scandal.
Sleeper
People are
cells
like,
everywhere, awakening the sleeper cells. The Iranians put forth a plan predicting already what was happening. I'm telling you, I'm not speaking as an alarmist. I saw this in Iraq. I saw it with my own eyes. They managed to infiltrate the green zone and they blew up a room where there was a conference. The green zone was established by the Americans as a buffer zone to protect personnel, UN personnel, others. They managed to infiltrate the green zone and blew up the area, killing a UN official. And I saw how they operated. They have people who are committed to their cause, but also, Waj, if your daughter or my daughter was killed in that school, okay, let's just, not because they're fanatics, they will be radicalized
absolutely.
because you killed our offspring, our children. What they will do, they will say, I want to hurt, I want vengeance. A lot of people are today in the Middle East who hated the regimes, but they killed our children in the first strike. In the first strike, a lot of these people will be recruited easily,
Yep.
easily to carry attacks anywhere they want.
It's Vietnam, it's Iraq, it's Iran. People get radicalized. And
Yep.
especially when you put a religious framing, it's the West versus Islam, which is what the Bush administration said. It was the number one recruitment strategy for ISIS and Al Qaeda. ISIS was born as a result, folks. People forget this. ISIS was born in the aftermath of the Bush administration's disastrous war on terror, and all it takes is one. Rula, people forget. All it takes is one individual to be successful, and it's asymmetrical warfare. So what people have to be used to right now, and you're seeing it now. You're seeing it really right now as we're giving you real life. NATO intercepted a missile broached and killed a few people in Israel. A consulate is on fire in Dubai. It's asymmetrical warfare. Iran is not stupid.
No.
Iran knows it can't go up against mano a mano against Israel, United States. However, they have proxies, they have weapons, intelligence, assets. So we'll gouge you, we'll bleed you. One missile here will go. You can't intercept all the missiles. One missile will go, 8 people dead. Another missile, 4 people dead. Another missile, consulate on fire. Oh, you know what we could also do? I don't know. Maybe abduct U.S. tourists, abduct U.S. ambassadors. Maybe what we can do is look at symbols of the United States and attack them. Construction companies,
Yeah.
franchises.
And you know what? I heard today some European diplomats who said, we don't want American military bases in our region, in Europe. Why should, if they manage to hit the American bases across the Middle East, why should we host American bases that they can use to launch attacks from our territories? We want sovereignty. For the first time, I hear Europeans since World War II talking about sovereignty, independence from this madman. I mean, like, not only Israel lost the world, America is losing its closest allies.
I think it already has, Rula. I think it already has.
They don't share intelligence anymore with them. They don't want their military bases there. I mean, this is the worst case scenario. I predicted this second term would be a disaster, but this is a disaster that, look, this is a kind of catastrophe that I could not imagine would be that far. I thought he would sit back, make a bunch of money, be so corrupt, and just totally dismiss all of that. Not only that, he wants to rule the world on the back of the American military.
Murder suicide, and you said something which I'm so glad you did, and you connected the dots. This is Rula Jebreal, folks, for the nearly 1,500 people who are watching us. She's an expert on the Middle East. She's a professor. She's a screenwriter. Her book Genocide came out in Italy. It's what, Genocidia?
Genocidio.
Genocidio. It's close. We're looking for the American translation, a Palestinian American scholar. And you mentioned something that was I wanted to keep it in my head just to terrify people. Speaking about putting the most incompetent people, Kash Patel, head of the FBI, Pam Bondi, Attorney General. Some breaking news: the House Oversight Committee just voted to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi over
Oh,
her handling of the Epstein investigation. So they're coming up with some fall girls. Notice that Christy Noem's going to be a fall girl. Maybe Pam Bondi will be a fall girl over Epstein, not Kegseth, not Stephen Miller, not J.D. Vance, not Donald Trump, but I digress. And what these people did, folks, these idiots who don't know what they're doing, because they went against DEI, they've purged our intelligence and FBI of competent, qualified women and people of color. I want to give you two examples. When Charlie Kirk was murdered, allegedly by Tyler Robinson in Utah, the head FBI agent there was a Pakistani Muslim woman who was beloved. Guess who was no longer there? That Pakistani American Muslim woman, the head of the FBI unit there, because Kash Patel got rid of her. And as such, the FBI was flying blind. It was Tyler Robinson's family that encouraged him to turn himself in. But before that, I just want you to remind y'all, the FBI said we have no leads. Now, the head of countering violent extremism in America is 23-year-old Thomas Fugate, Rula. 23-year-old Thomas Fugate is the head of countering violent extremism in the United States of America. His credentials was being a grocer and being a groyper and a disciple of Stephen Miller. Rula, what could go wrong?
well, we are led, governed by ignorant people who are more obsessed with purging the government of Black, brown, competent people, independent people, who are weaponizing the State Department and the intelligence apparatus in a moment where they just launched a war that within 24 hours became a regional war that probably in less than 20 days will become a global war. And I don't know how you go off ramp with people who are so arrogant, so ignorant, and so compromised. I mean, I shouldn't say this, but last night I was looking at, and I covered war zones, as you know. I've been to Syria, to Iraq, um, Lebanon. I grew up in a war zone, Palestine. I was thinking yesterday, for the first time in my life, it's not anymore safe to be living in the West.
Mm.
It's not anymore safe to be living in the United States. I invite people around the world not to come to the United States. It's not safe anymore. It's not safe because you have ICE people who can drag you and kill you and detain you and throw you in dungeons, literally concentration camps. But also it's not safe because the number one goal and I think mission of any government is to keep its citizens safe. And this administration is betraying that promise. People give you their vote, their taxes, so you can give them in return two things: safety, which is the most important thing, guarantee their safety, and then put competent people that at least those competent people, you might not, thwart every attack, but at least you can prepare people and handle a situation of crisis. We have neither. They cannot handle a crisis. They're creating crisis, and we're driving this plane blind.
And to your point, Rula, I don't know if you saw this Wall Street Journal article that came out last week. A record number of Americans have fled the United
Lad.
States of
Yeah,
America.
yeah.
They're not coming back. And furthermore, what you just said about America no longer being safe, on the left hook, I've talked to different people. Some people on national security, some people when it comes to the bureaucracy, other people when it comes to the healthcare system. When I talked to doctors, they said same thing that you said. Generational damage. We have no more faith in our medical system and our expertise. We're flying blind. You have to take care of yourself. You know what a doctor told me, Dr. Kavita Patel. She says it's the first time I'm ever saying this. I'm telling people not to come to America. And then second thing I said, and she has no joy in saying this. Folks, go see our interview. She said, you know how you sit in a plane and they say take care of yourself first, then your kids? She says that's how you should approach medicine and medical treatment. Take care of yourself, your family, your neighbors, your street. Go to your local family med doctor, pediatrician. You can no longer trust the HHS. You can't trust the CDC. You can't trust the government. You can't trust the FBI. You can't trust the people in charge. You can't trust our attorney general. This is where we are. Rula, I kept you longer, but people love you. I don't know if you're reading the comments. You're getting a lot of raves. This is the third time Rula's been on. Rula's always, mashallah, consistently brilliant. I have to ask you this. What is an exit ramp? Is there something that could be an exit ramp as the world, especially world leaders, share your fears about how this can escalate and how this is escalating?
Well, I think the region, MBS, uh, the leaders of Saudi Arabia, the Emiratis, the Qataris, the Omanis, the Europeans need to call Donald Trump and tell him, excuse me, this is not about your reputation anymore, not about your ego anymore. This needs to end now. And I think they need to start threatening the United States by throwing away their military base and literally threaten the United States to say, we cut ties. This is not in our name. The only way we could survive this is basically standing up and not doing what the idiot from Germany did yesterday, Merz, who is, I am so disgusted by that man who in June said Israel is doing the dirty job for them. Dude, the dirty job is killing people. I don't know what dirty job you're talking about. Germany never learned from its history of Nazism. They never learned. They just changed tactic. They decided we will be pro-Israeli. So if Israel is committing the genocide, well, nobody will accuse us of being anti-Semite, so it's fine. And he basically sat there like an idiot and throw under the bus Europe. And the scariest part in that, he doesn't understand, it opens the door to Europe being seen as complicit.
Yes.
Attacks.
Which is why Spain is being very smart, in my opinion.
Spain is the leader of the free world. I love the Spanish prime minister. He understood immediately the risks. He stood up immediately. It's like, this is illegal against international law. It's a violation. We don't have to love the regime to understand that we don't love also violation of international law. Two wrongs don't make one right.
That's right.
Done. And I think he is positioning his country. Remember, Waj, there's two countries that stood up against America during the Iraq War. France and Germany. Germany was led by Schroeder. France was led by what's his name, the ex-president who died. I don't remember. It will come to my mind. And those are the two countries that didn't get terrorist attacks. London was hit by terrorist attacks.
Chirac.
Jacques Chirac, exactly. London was hit by terrorist attacks multiple times because Tony Blair supported that war. Spain at the time, led by Aznar, supported the war in Iraq, had terrorist attack, including in Atosha, a train station. Other countries, basically there was attacks in Belgium, also because Belgium sent some troops to Iraq, to Afghanistan, etc. So anybody that supported the Iraq war got hit. It's the same thing now. Spain is the first one to flag to the Middle East, hey, excuse me, we have nothing to do with these assholes. We have nothing to do with these criminals.
And Donald Trump said he lied. Donald Trump said, "Oh, Spain's on board," and then just folks an hour ago, Spain said, "Nope, nope, we're not cooperating."
And I must say, Spain emerging as a leader of the free world. Canada, the prime minister talked 2 weeks ago, made this big speech about international democracy. And then as soon as he came back home, and this is when you see the how reality hits in. Talked, when you talked in a virtual way about democracy and international law, and then when there's, reality, he stood up, said that he support Trump and he support Israel. I mean, dude, you're opening the door to getting hit in your own country. You have to be stupid not to understand the consequences, the catastrophic consequences for your own people.
I think by the end of this week, you're going to see more people like Spain. I think people are going to do the polling on this. I think as this escalates, they're like, whoa, 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 we don't want this. And I think this makes Donald Trump and America more weak. Sadly, I do want to ask this question, knowing Donald Trump, how he operates. He needs a win. He needs to be seen as a winner. I know this sounds so petty, people. Everything that Rula said, he doesn't care. What he needs to exit is I won. Remember that, folks? He lied. It literally was on the White House website, literally on Saturday. We obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons. It's a lie, but it doesn't matter. He gets a talking point. How can the rest of the world give this man child a talking point that allows him to back off and extricate himself from Israel's war?
Well, very simple. He already killed Khamenei. He can say, I achieved the goals that I wanted. The regime is decapitated. It's weaker than ever. Israel can continue its war. I helped. I, but I think, again, if he was driven only by ego, my fear, and here we enter in a very murky territory, I think it's also blackmail.
Hmm. You
So
think they have stuff on him?
I think if, you read in the Epstein files an intelligence source that is saying that he's compromised by Israel. I don't know how he's compromised, but if we look at patterns, right? He was convicted. He was basically found guilty of raping Eugene Carroll. So multiple women claim they harassed them. We know that he likes prostitutes. He paid Karen McDougal and I don't want to call her prostitute,
She's a model, film star, Stormy Daniels.
porn star, whatever that. We know that he has a very, how can I say this elegantly, very strange sexual appetite. Okay. I don't know if he's compromised because of that. He's compromised because of, you know, what he did in Russia when he went to that suite, or because of maybe economical deals, corruption. I have no idea. But I know that when I read that thing about Trump is compromised by Israel, I believe it. Not because I'm a conspiracy theorist, because I look at a pattern of behavior. I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. If the guy likes porn stars and you know,
Girls, chase girls
girls,
with Epstein.
girls, raped a woman, was convicted of raping a woman, yeah, makes total sense.
Folks, and one piece of good news, I think Epstein will intersect with this. The Epstein class shows you the world's most powerful, wealthy people, and a man who used that wealth to get compromise on people. And I've always said, Rula, if I'm a foreign intelligence agent of any country, I would do my best to make Epstein an asset. Because if all these powerful men are raping women and you're at the center node of it, I have compromising information that can bring down governments. Why wouldn't I want to be part of it? And as we know, Ehud Barak, really close to Epstein. And as we know, it was Israel that helped Epstein install video cameras. So is it crazy to think that Israel and other countries have compromising information on elected officials and powerful people? I don't think so.
No,
Rule, go ahead.
winning in this moment, the real winner of all of this, China and Russia.
Yeah, sadly.
China is sitting back, looking at America's burning billions of dollars in few days, burning its capital in terms of reputation, in terms of alliances, in terms of credibility around the world. And China is like, wow, Trump is a perfect president for us. China will emerge is emerging as
Yes,
a
has emerged.
superpower, more stable. Yes, they are a dictatorship, but more stable, more rational, more intelligent, and it's so weird even to say that. More aligned with international law than America in this moment. And this is an irony. And now Europeans are telling Ukrainians, we are so sorry. We boycotted the Russian gas and oil for 3 years. Now we cannot afford to do that anymore. So Putin, who sat back and
Yeah,
sat,
just like that. Just like
he's going to make billions of dollars from oil and gas that he will be selling to the Europeans because Trump basically destroy their ability to access in a cheap way oil and gas from the Middle East.
the murder suicide of America and Russia and China didn't have to lift a finger, and then these two authoritarian regimes will emerge and carve up the world. America is going to be more weak, more isolated, more poor, more sick. Life expectancy, Rula, in America has gone down. And oh, yeah, but measles has become great again. Rula, I kept you much longer than I thought, but you were on a roll. It was a long time since I've talked to you. I'm so happy that you said yes. I knew this would be a fantastic conversation. Our audience really, really loves you and appreciates you for connecting the dots. Can you please shamelessly promote yourself?
Absolutely. I am both on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter or X um, at Rula Jebreal altogether. Thank you. Thank you, Waj, for everything you're doing. I am so proud. I wish mainstream media, legacy media would have voices like you more often, especially in the moment of this crisis, because I'm tired and sick of listening to Scott Jennings repeating lies, feeding lies to CNN audience.
But you know what? Folks who don't know, Rula was on MSNBC, and she was Palestinian before it was chic and hip, and they got rid of her. And now everything that Rula's been saying for her entire career, Americans in the world are like, "Oh, I think she was onto something." So that's the one small win, is that for the first time in my lifetime, something that me and Rula, I don't think we ever imagined. A majority of Americans are seeing it. A majority of Americans are pro-Palestinian. A majority of Democrats are done with APAC. APAC is toxic. 50% of Americans are want to abolish ICE. That just came out yesterday. And every single time there's a war in the Middle East, Rula, I was telling Danielle just before you came on, the president always starts with a position of strength. This is the first time I've ever seen that Trump has started from a position of weakness where where he has lost at least 60% of America. So maybe, and the sad part is, Rula, it didn't have to be this way. You didn't have to have a genocide. You didn't have to have a war. You didn't have to have so many dead people. But maybe, just maybe, that pain and suffering won't be in vain if indeed Americans finally say enough. And I do think we're seeing a pivot point, Rula, right here, right now, in real time, something that you and I never thought we'd see, a generational massive shift. And as things are changing, folks, let me just warn you, that old guard, they ain't gonna go quietly, they ain't gonna go legally, they ain't gonna go peacefully. They will burn the world down if they have to.
Absolutely. And we are seeing now also their fear of the narrative shifting. The people can see the truth and believe their own eyes. So they're trying to dominate the media landscape, buying CBS, CNN, Paramount, the Larry Ellison, the Barry
TikTok.
Wise,
TikTok. They got TikTok.
TikTok, Barry Wise. Because if they cannot control the narrative, they will buy the network to pour propaganda. That's what Mussolini did. When he couldn't control the public opinion, he decided to dominate the public opinion with propaganda and lies. This is the end of civilization.
And inshallah, we are still here. There's more of us than there are of them. And I will say this to put a fine point on Rula. Larry and David Ellison, the ones who are gobbling up, have gobbled up Paramount, TikTok, CBS, will now gobble up Warner Brothers, HBO, CNN, the single largest private donor to the IDF.
Exactly. And best friend Netanyahu. Best friends with Netanyahu. I think Netanyahu called Larry Ellison and said, listen, buy this because they're insulting Israel and telling the truth about Israel. That truth that they wanted to bury in Gaza, and now they want to bury the same truth in Iran.
And,
In
and Rula's not making it up, folks. For the past 2 years, both the Republicans and Democrats have said that it's due to TikTok that children have become radicalized. Not the genocide, but TikTok. Hillary
TikTok.
Clinton repeated the same talking points a couple of months ago when she shamefully agreed to Miriam Adelson's conference. Miriam Adelson, oh, the right wing Zionist billionaire who's given millions of dollars to Republicans and Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton said, "You're my friend. I'll come here and repeat this talking point." And what happened? Larry Ellison bought up TikTok. So I know people, we're not into conspiracy theories, neither me nor Rula. We're asking you to look at the evidence of your eyes and ears, and it is all connected. And it's
Yeah,
about time the majority of us say enough. And there's a multicultural coalition, there's a multi faith coalition. Young Jews are sick of this also. We need everyone to speak up, folks, because these mother effers are dragging us. We're this close to a world war, folks.
yeah.
Inshallah, cooler heads prevail. Rula, someone said, where are you teaching?
I used to teach at the University of Miami, but I took a sabbatical year also because I was sick and tired of all of these Adelson type, Allison types calling my university every time they would see me on CNN discussing and debating and telling the truth about the genocide in Gaza. So they made it so difficult. So I decided to take a sabbatical year, but I will decide if to go back next year or not.
And how about your book? When is it coming out in translation, inshallah?
Hopefully in a couple of months.
And that's a book on genocide. Uh,
Yeah.
so strong. I was waiting for it. I don't speak Italian. I'm an England American. So I was waiting. I was waiting for the American version. Rula, come back anytime. Thank you all for watching. Everyone, take care of yourself. Be kind. Be informed. For the 1,800 people who joined us, this will be up later tonight on Substack. I'm talking to Rula Jebreal. We connect the dots, talk about the different players, talk about the spillover, talk about Iran, its long-term game, how it seeks to survive, and our fear of how America will become weaker, more poor, more isolated if this war continues to escalate. And unfortunately, this war will make China and Russia great again. What could go wrong? But inshallah, some cooler heads could prevail. Let's hope. Thank you, Rula.
Thank you. Thank you, Aj.
Take care.